The October 28th, 2020 meeting of Haliburton County Council is now in session. Warden Liz Danielson presiding.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Rutter, if you would take a roll call, please.
Councillor Moffat.
Present.
Warden Danielson.
Present.
Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Councillor Kennedy.
Present.
Councillor Burton.
Present.
Councillor Ryle.
Present.
Councillor DeVolen.
Present.
And Councillor Schell.
Present.
Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda? Councillor Burton, Councillor Moffat.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that the October 28th, 2020 Haliburton County Council agenda be approved.
All in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest this morning or general nature thereof?
Madam Warden, I can confirm that Councillor Kennedy has provided written notice that he has a pecuniary interest in an item in the closed session and will be leaving the meeting for that portion of the conversation.
Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder for adoption of the minutes from September the 23rd, please? Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Roberts, thank you.
By Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that the minutes from the September 23rd, 2020 meeting of Haliburton County Council be adopted as circulated.
All in favor? Carried. No business arising and no delegations. So we'll move on to the business from the Committee of the Whole meeting. If I could have a mover and a seconder to accept the recommendations from our meeting on October the 14th, please. Councillor Schell and Councillor Kennedy, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Schell, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the recommendations from the October 14th, 2020 meeting of Haliburton County Council Committee of the Whole be adopted by Haliburton County Council.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, next is Planning and Environment. If we could call in Charles E. to give us her planning update. Good morning.
Good morning, Warden and members of County Council. So the Planning Department update today, we'll start with Municipal 511. As you may remember, earlier this year, we began utilizing this service that a number of other municipalities, counties across Ontario have been using. And they've done a significant update as of the end of September, and there's a number of new tools that are available not only to the public who are viewing it from their vantage point, but also for the municipal staff who are using it to provide information on the website. I'm not going to run through all of the new tools, but I did provide a list here. And some of the highlights that I wanted to point out were some new notifications that can be put on the website for municipal services, including road conditions. And I know one of our municipalities in Dysart et al., they've put some of the roads where they are only open seasonally or only maintained seasonally, they've put those notifiers on there. I know the Township of Algonquin Highlands has utilized where there is some maybe dangerous curves or load restricted curves. They've put that notification in. And these are important because the Municipal 511 system actually feeds into Google and Waze. So those are directional tools that people are using when they're traveling through the Highlands. And it's important that these features are picked up by those systems. As well, of interest are trail closures. Those could be used during the summer. The trails may be used for one purpose, and in the winter, they may not be used for other purposes, or vice versa. And there's also some camera features, and I've highlighted 2 locations in the county that there are cameras. They provide up-to-date traffic, and you can actually see what the road conditions are just by clicking on that camera icon. next item is the County of Haliburton zoning amendment to surrender the license for a pit that is located in Dysart et al. So that surrender has been initiated, and we're going to move forward with the zoning application, and I've completed the pre-consultation with the local municipality. Next item is LiDAR update. So we've had a joint meeting a few weeks ago and are moving forward with this project. A little behind, but we believe that by the end of 2020, we'll have some significant mapping done, and they've showed me the maps and process, which I hopefully will be able to bring forward in a format that I can show council what this actually is going to look like. And then also the funding application. So we had some good conversations about what reasonable expectations would be for 2021, both with funding and without funding. So we're also moving forward with that. And then the land division, our next meeting will be November 9th. And we also have at the back of this report as Schedule A, status report on the planning applications currently in process. And as Schedule B is the GIS status report. And the climate change, a quick update there is the first climate change working group meeting is in the process of being booked. So that would be amongst municipal staff. And lastly, ULinks, the Center for Community-Based Research, has submitted an application to the Climate Action and Awareness Fund. The project category that they're applying under is the encouraging or incentivizing behavioral change that supports climate action. And the due date for that application was actually before County Council. So I did draft up and provide them a letter of support, which I've attached for your information to the back of this planning update. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I'm particularly happy to see the details of the 511 update. It's great information. Councillor Roberts, and then Councillor Royale, and then Councillor Moffat.
Thank you. I'm not sure, Charles, if you're able to speak to under the applications update, the one that is with the LPAT, and it says ongoing. Is there any time? I know everything got delayed from COVID, but is there any time frame that you're allowed to or know of to update us on?
The only information I'm aware of is that it is before the courts, and so we're at their discretion.
Councillor Royale?
Charles, I didn't get a chance to go on 511, so I'm going to ask this question off the cuff. Obviously, we had a pretty serious challenge on 507 just this weekend. Would that have appeared on the 511, even though it may not have occurred in Haliburton County?
So my understanding is our adjacent municipalities are also using the system. So if their road supervisors have passwords, which we've provided to all of ours, that information could have been updated by them. I did not look, so I can't confirm whether it was or not.
Thank you. But it is available if they want to use it.
So it's available to all of the county road supers as well as each local municipal. And I would assume our neighbors do the same.
Thank you.
Councillor Moffat?
Thank you. I also wanted to comment on the 511. I did go on it, and it's a really robust tool, far more robust than it has been. You can now subscribe to get text updates for your particular routes, follow your own plow for your neighborhood. There's a couple of cameras in Haliburton County that if those are your routes, you can get updates from them. So it's matured to an extent that I'd really like to see us promote it. You know, we do have some strange driving conditions throughout the year, especially in the winter. And a lot of people are asking Facebook what the roads are like. And seeing as the municipalities are now actually contributing data to this, I think it's really important and a great service to the public to promote it and help encourage them to learn how to use it for their own traveling needs, as opposed to relying on public opinion, you know, just out there in the world. So I'd love to see us promote it if we could.
That's a really good point. I wonder if we can work with our people for some social media posts. Would be great, and any other mechanisms we've got in place. Notice on the website. Any other questions on the planning department update? Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive that report? Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Moffat. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that the October 28th, 2020 staff report on planning department activities be received for information by Haliburton County Council.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, go ahead with your next item, please.
Great, thank you very much. So as we've been moving through this very different year, we remember a number of changes were made to the Planning Act that extended a number of deadlines and lapse dates for planning applications. However, subdivisions and condominiums were not included in that list. And so we have before us a request for extension to a draft approval for plan of subdivision. This was draft approved in 2017, and it would be set to expire the day before our next council meeting, which is why I'm trying to bring it forward this month. Because in order to consider an extension, it has to be done before the application lapses. So the purpose of the plan of subdivision is to create 6 lots on the subject land. 5 of those lots would be resource-based recreational and 1 would be resource commercial. And the Planning Act allows the County Council to extend the draft approval. And as long as it continues to be consistent with the provincial policy statement, as well as the county official plan and the local municipal official plan, there should be no issues or concerns. What I have done is reviewed the original plan of subdivision conditions, and I've included for you a red line version to show a number of changes that are required to be made to that original document. And I'll just run through the rationale for some of these changes. If we go to the draft decision, item number 7, or condition number 7, the reason that I'm proposing the change be made is because our Public Works Department has updated that bylaw. So we want to make sure we're referencing the proper road naming bylaw. On page 4 of the draft conditions, number 22, we may recall the Ministry of Natural Resources used to be responsible for endangered and threatened species, and this is now the responsibility of the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. So I've made the changes to the condition there. As well, condition number 29, site development plan. I've just updated the reference because this is related to the Dysart et al. Official plan, and it's been updated. So this is the new section that would apply. And then lastly, condition 31, again, the county has updated the shoreline tree preservation bylaw. So we're just making sure the reference is to the correct bylaw. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I can report that the municipality of Dysart et al., as well as a number of agencies reviewed this, responded, and are in support of an extension.
Okay, are there any questions on the request? Councillor DeVolen.
Not a question, a comment. The way this was laid out with the red line addition to the deputy CAO planner, I can't thank her enough. It makes us able to do our homework ahead of time to understand all this, and it's appreciated.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Roberts, Councillor Burton. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved that the October 28th, 2020 staff report on the request for extension of draft approval of a plan of subdivision file number 46T12001 be received for information by Haliburton County Council, and that Haliburton County Council amends the approval of the draft plan of subdivision submitted by Catherine Gonson for lands located in part of Lot 33, Concession 6, Geographic Township of Dysart, part of Lot 1, Concessions 5 and 6, Geographic Township of Dudley, now in the municipality of Dysart et al., to extend the lapsing of draft approval to November 24th, 2021.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, under administrative reports, the first item is Rail Trail Roundtable minutes from September. Any comments or questions about those minutes? Did you want to speak to them, Councillor Moffat?
Yeah, I can. We're picking away at this. The ultimate idea, of course, is to align the existing plan with current practices and the updated and current work plan that the county's been doing as an outcome from the community consultation from 2010, I think it was. That plan that exists has lots of shoulds and coulds and options in it, and we just want to trim that down to be is and will and shall, because there's a lot of things that decisions have been made from the options that were presented back then, and so the whole thing's just out of date. So we've got a bit of a plan in place. I've had one community group has come forward to say when the time is right, they'd like to have a little bit of input. That's the HCSA, and that's part of our process. So nothing's going to happen very quickly, but we hope to have a red line version to council for consideration in the spring. So if anybody has any questions, we can go from there.
Councillor Roberts.
Just a comment that I wanted to thank Councillor Moffat for stepping up to the plate to chair this, because her experience from the rail trail committees and master plans and previous information is very valuable to that committee. And I think we're doing a good job, and we're just trying to freshen it up and bring the whole thing up to date. So thank you.
Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder to accept those minutes? Councillor DeVolen and Councillor Schell. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Schell. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the minutes from the September 10th, 2020 meeting of the Rail Trail Roundtable Steering Committee.
All in favor? Carried. The next item is Vulnerability Management Program Implementation. And there's somebody who would like to speak to that.
Good morning, Warden and members of council. Before you today is a report on the IT department's implementation of a vulnerability management program. If you recall, in the fall of 2019, the IT department underwent a cyber resilience review undertaken by Public Safety Canada. And one of the areas of improvement identified in that report was the implementation of one of the areas of improvement identified was in the domain of vulnerability management. And although in the IT department, we were doing many of the things that, many of the requirements in that domain, there were a number of recommendations for improvement, and that included formalizing an actual program and policy, prioritizing our risks and vulnerabilities, managing any exceptions to vulnerability management, maintaining a list of current and reputable info on vulnerabilities, recording all vulnerability activities and reporting those to management. So what we've done to meet those requirements are we've trialed and are now implementing a software solution that will scan, discover, and prioritize vulnerabilities within our network based on an industry recognized scoring system. We are modifying our internal patching process to tackle higher risk systems first, and any systems that get flagged by the new software we are implementing. We are logging what vulnerabilities have been found, which ones have been remediated, and which ones have been mitigated. And I'm planning on bringing a summary of our vulnerability management activities on my monthly IT status report to the committee of the whole. And finally, we created and are presenting a draft policy outlining these activities and our vulnerability management remediation timelines. So I'm happy to take any questions on any of the details of this report or anything found in the draft policy.
Councillor DeVolen.
Well, I want to thank the director for the good work they're doing here. In full disclosure, to keep us on our toes, on Monday they caught me on a phishing contact. So they can do the systemic and the software, but there still continues to be the human part that we can all be fallible, and that I'm happy that they're doing it and getting more sophisticated in their phishing, so that it sharpens my skills, and that it was a phishing test, not a legitimate threat, and I endeavor to do better, Mike.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Yeah, good work, Mike. Do we have a resolution to accept the policy or adopt the policy?
We
I
do.
didn't have that marked on my sheet. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the policy? Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Moffat. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council received for information the October 28th, 2020 report regarding vulnerability management program implementation, and that Haliburton County Council adopt the vulnerability management policy as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. So I think we will have our tourism director coming online to talk to the Hike Haliburton Festival. Good morning.
Good morning, Warden and members of council. The report before you is regarding the September Hike Haliburton Festival, which would take place in 2021. As you know, we haven't actually had a discussion yet on whether or not the festival will be happening in 2021 due to COVID-19. But we have time for those discussions, which can happen early in the new year when we know more about the evolving situation of the pandemic. So those reports will be forthcoming. That said, 3 years ago, Council directed staff to undergo an RFP process on a more regular basis for the contractor who assists the tourism department with festival coordination. The last time we went out to RFP was 2018. In reviewing our needs for the Hike Haliburton Festival coordination, the tourism team feels that the festival is now something that we can manage with existing internal resources, or at least we'd like to try that for the next festival. This could result in a potential savings of $15,000. As you know, in the past, Barry Martin of Yours Outdoors was the successful vendor out of our RFP process. But also, as you know, the ownership structure for Yours Outdoors has changed, and they're now owned by Haliburton Forest, which is a very exciting partnership that we think will be great for the whole community. I wanted to sincerely thank the Yours Outdoors team, led by Barry Martin, for their coordination efforts over the years. They've been a great partner to the county. And we're very excited to continue working with both Yours Outdoors and the Haliburton Forest on hike offerings to visitors in future Hike Haliburton festivals.
Thanks, Amanda. Questions, comments about the proposal? Councillor Moffat.
Yeah, I mean, things change, and that's fine, I guess. And I did speak briefly with Amanda just about assurances that it won't be an undue burden on. We have limited staff in the tourism department, so assurances that there wouldn't be an undue burden. And there's a tremendous number of things for the festival that are managed within the county resources anyway, such as the mapping and whatnot. So the proposal seems to stand us in good stead, and I look forward to hoping we can have the festival again in coming years, and we'll see how we go.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I believe we have a resolution to adopt this management plan. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Schell, Councillor Moffat, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Schell, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the report on the Hike Haliburton Festival 2021 and directs staff to develop the festival without the assistance of a partner vendor.
All in favor? Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item is the Haliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge District Health Unit Assessment and a report from the CAO.
Thank you, Warden. Council will recall that in I guess late 2019, we received notification from the health unit that they were proposing a 2020 requisition that saw an increase of about $42,000. And that was a 10% increase, which was the maximum allowed by the provincial government. That was followed by a letter from the board chair outlining the dire financial circumstances for 2020 and beyond. County Council had some concerns and actually I made a direction or provided direction to keep the levy at the same level as 2019. And they asked for a report, you asked for a report detailing mandatory and discretionary services. We did receive an information package. There was no real explanation as to the services they provide, but they did state that they provide no discretionary services. My understanding is that County Council took your stand, or the stand that you took was because you wanted to demonstrate to the provincial government that you were concerned with downloading in any form, and to ensure that the Board of Health and staff had made every effort to reduce costs before passing it on to the taxpayers. I believe that in many ways those goals have been accomplished. County Council participated formally, and Councillor Kennedy was a big part of the presentation in Peterborough on the public health modernization consultations. I know many members of council have discussed this informally with provincial representatives as well, and I really am confident that the modernization process will address some of your concerns. While we didn't receive any specific information about efficiencies that the board has found, Councillor Roberts, who's our county representative on the Health Unit Board, advises that they did undertake that exercise, but many of those conversations took place in closed session because they involved identifiable individuals, and so they are not public domain. So I guess in short, our recommendation is to pay the full 2020 levy. We did receive a notice that we are to be, I guess, considered in arrears. The full amount was included in our 2020 budget. We wanted to make sure that we were ready to pay it should council direct that. And I should highlight, I guess, as well, that part of the information that is in your package talks about, looks into the future, and it says that we can expect another $46,000 increase in 2001 and an additional $50,000 in 2022. So barring any major changes that the province makes, I think we have some challenges ahead with this levy. And I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted those for council's information.
Council comments or questions? I've got to say that this is unfortunate. We'll start with Councillor Duvall, then Councillor.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank staff and members of council that have participated in what I'll call the limited oversight in this process to bring this report to us today. It's a bit similar in my mind to OPP. You know, we have things that we pay for that we're responsible for to taxpayers, but we either have very limited to no influence on decisions. I am encouraged to hear that there was a process that they were considered with Councillor Roberts' participation, but again, it's a more limited whatever. So it's just, this continues to challenge me where we pay for things that we have no direct supervision or control over. And like I say, that's no disrespect to staff or councillors, just fundamentally, systemically, I just have a challenge with any of these sort of things that fall on municipal taxpayers that we don't directly oversee and control. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I concur completely. And I just wanted to thank both Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Roberts for your whatever assistance you provided us. I guess we'll wait and see what everyone decides, but to me, this continues to be more or less what Brent was saying, downloading by stealth. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. So thank you, Mike, for putting together this report because it is quite detailed and hopefully explains in a little more clear language particularly if you draw your attention to the very last attachment, which says the October 16th, 2020 correspondence increase to municipal assessments, and explains that you're right, it is downloading by stealth. Mm-hmm. But we asked last year, got a muddy answer. We asked again, was still clear as mud. I've been asking several times. I can assure you, I have been speaking up for the county to clearly explain so that I don't have to, it should have been in a chart like this right from the get-go. The difference is that the province is not funding these programs at the 70-30. These programs are now, they were funded, pardon me, at 100%, and now they're funded at the 70-30 split. But in terms of efficiencies and how the board has and the whole health unit has looked inward to see where they can find cost savings over the last several years since I've been a board member, but particularly I would say the last 3 years, in terms of things like lease agreements and staffing changes at senior level. They have made significant changes, but these are programs that are mandated, and yet now the municipalities are paying a portion. So I would make, if there's a motion on the table, that we do pay the 2020 allotment, and we can continue discussions on how things go forward. I'm not actually sure where the talks are with the whole changing of boundaries and health units, and if where that is because of due to COVID-19, if that Jim Pine has picked that up, we're not even really clear. So I would like to say that we pay the bill for 2020.
It's my understanding that work is sort of temporarily on hold.
But I hear that it's picking up again, but no confirmation.
That's good. I have a lot of faith in the gentleman that's heading that work. Other comments or thoughts about the resolution that suggests that we pay up? Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Roberts. Councillor DeVolen. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor DeVolen. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council received the October 28th, 2020 Haliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge District Health Unit Assessment Staff Report, and that the full levy requisition be paid for 2020.
Could I ask for a recorded vote?
Sure. Councillor Burton.
Yay.
Councillor Ryle.
Yay.
Councillor Roberts.
Yay, yes.
Councillor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councillor DeVolen.
Yes.
Councillor Shell.
Yes.
Councillor Shell.
Yes.
Councillor Moffat.
Yes.
And Warden Danielson.
Nay.
7 in favor, 1 opposed.
Okay, the next item is the health unit's minutes for September the 17th. Did you have any comment that you wanted to make about that, Councillor Roberts? I'm sorry, go ahead, Councillor DeVolen.
We missed the warden election process. I think was the next in the agenda.
We passed that last resolution and I just checked it off. The next item for discussion is the warden election process, which has been an interesting process for staff to work out, given the present circumstances. So we'll hear from Mr. Rutter.
Thank you, Warden. You're right. It doesn't appear that we will be able to have our traditional inaugural meeting where the warden's election takes place. But I think the nomination process can move forward with a few modifications. But I guess what we're proposing is that we would send out emails today with nomination forms. Those are normally supplied or left sitting on your desk at the October council meeting. So that would be fairly similar. The only real difference, I guess, is that normally we would require those to be signed by a mover and a seconder. We're suggesting that an email from the mover and a seconder to the candidate or the nominee is sufficient, and then those emails could be included with the nomination form. The nomination form can be sent to the clerk's office by email. The deadline for that would be 4:30 p.m. on Friday, November 13th. And other than that, I think nothing really changes. If we have multiple nominees, then they would be given an opportunity to speak at the November council meeting once the nomination report has been received, and they would be given 10 minutes to speak. And then an election or acclamation will occur at the first meeting in December. The election process has a couple options, and I think probably has a more significant impact. Mike, the IT department, were able to source out a virtual option that is quite inexpensive. If we proceed with the virtual option, shortly, I guess about a week before the inaugural on December 15th, we would send out an email with a instruction package and a link to a ballot. If we do proceed this way, I'd be looking for direction on whether county council would be okay to vote anytime from the point where they receive the ballot in the mail or in the email to I guess beginning of the inaugural meeting, or whether you want to vote during the inaugural. So we would call the meeting to order, do the normal formalities, and then have the election per se. And then I guess we've noted that if we are having an election, we would, if it's at all possible, we're requesting that the candidates attend the council chambers. That allows for the presentation of the warden's robe and the chain of office to try and make it as normal as possible. The other option is, I guess, a more traditional process, much decidedly low tech, but we would propose that if council choose to do that, we would mail out ballots or email out ballots, ask that you print them off, and then we would use a traditional ballot box that is locked. We would make an appointment to meet with each of you where you could drop in your ballot, and that would stay locked in the vault here until the inaugural day, and we would open those and count the ballots as we would normally. So I guess we're looking for direction on a couple things, whether you're okay with that process as we've outlined, and then a choice between the virtual or the more traditional process.
So two decisions: timing to vote and method, whether virtual or traditional. Councillor Moffat, then Councillor Royale.
Thank you. I think we should do the virtual, and it should be during the meeting. Have a little bit of during a little bit of fun during the meeting. It's try and align it as closely as possible to what would happen if we were in person. So that would be my preference, is virtual and during the meeting.
Councillor Royale.
I guess I'm 180 degrees around, because I think we could probably do it before the meeting. As far as how to get a vote in, we get sent a timesheet update, which is a form of a kind of like a fill-in PFD. We could probably do it that way as well, and then we can still have the discussion at the meeting. But again, just to take advantage of the 20th century or 21st century technology.
If I could just respond to that, the challenge with a process like the timesheet is that it is a secret ballot process, and it's important that we maintain the secrecy of the ballot. So we have to use a process. We've been able to source one out that's quite cost effective, but we couldn't use a similar process to use for the timesheets, because I would be able to tell how you had voted, and that's not appropriate.
Does that respond to your concerns, Ace?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mike. I forgot about the confidentiality of it.
Councillor Kennedy.
Virtual and ahead of time, given the ups and downs of our technology here. And if we freeze screens and lose the internet, that's the only reason. Otherwise, I like the challenge that Councillor Moffat speaks of, but just to ensure that it actually happens without a failure. That's why I would support that way.
Councillor, okay, thanks, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor DeVolen.
I concur with everybody virtual, and will echo the sentiments of Councillor Kennedy. Glitches, it would be lovely to not have, you know, like hanging chads in an election. I remember in Florida type of thing happen. But I do agree with Councillor Moffat. If we knew that that wouldn't happen, it would be fun to have some excitement.
Councillor Shell.
I'm of the same mind. I've had to try to speak this morning and you couldn't hear me because of internet glitches, and I'm of the same. It would be kind of fun to do it on the day, but perhaps in advance would be best.
Any other comments? Councillor Roberts.
So back to the nomination process, not the election process. More generally, if during the nomination process, a person would speak to their why they're moving or they're seconding, does that need to be, or is that an expectation that that be included in?
Sorry. Did you want me to?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, the speaking to the nomination happens at the inaugural. So they would be given that opportunity at the inaugural meeting. The mover and the seconder would be given that opportunity for each of the nominees.
Any other questions or comments? I think you have clear direction on how we'd like to handle it.
Absolutely.
So if I could have a mover and a seconder on that resolution, Councillor Shell and Councillor Burton. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Shell, seconded by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council received the October 28, 2020 staff report outlining suggested changes to the nomination and election process for the position of warden for 2021, and that staff incorporate the changes as directed by County Council.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the health unit's minutes and ask if you have any comments to make, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. I actually did speak to the issue of opioid crisis that is exemplified, like just exploding, sadly, not only like across the province. It's sort of one of those things. Is it a cause and effect of COVID? Likely some of it. And but anyway, that's included in there as well. And what's not included in the minutes but was announced is that Dr. Noseworthy is retiring at in December, and we will have a new medical officer of health April, I believe, called her name is Dr. Natalie Balking. And in the meantime, there will be an interim medical officer of health, Dr. Gemmell. So I'm hoping when Dr. Natalie Balking gets settled in that she's able to make a trip north and come and visit County Council. I'll encourage that. So.
Right on. Good. Any comments or questions about that? Any information from point in time, Councillor Shell?
Alex, we had our meeting last night and we had our accreditation interviews. So that was stressful, but I think it went well.
Thank you. The only news on the Warden's Caucus front is that we have a meeting on the 13th of November, at which time we will be talking about what our budget and priorities for next year will be. I think it'll be a much different discussion than we had at the beginning of this year. So I'll keep you posted after we've had that meeting. Anything on joint social and housing services?
They meet quarterly. They met in September that we've reported on and won't meet again until December, Warden.
Okay. No report on professional recruitment at the moment. Nothing on land claim in this portion of the meeting. So we have a resolution to accept the minutes.
Warden, the other thing is further down on the agenda, there is the economic impact analysis for the EORN gig project. We've included accepting that in this motion. So I'd like to, if I could, just highlight a few things from that analysis. If all of you are like me, it's a little difficult to follow. So I did want to just highlight a few things that would summarize the findings of those economists who did those reports. If we pursue the GIG project, it would generate between 9,683 and 16,138 job equivalents over 5 years. It would create between 432 and $720 million in employment earnings over those 5 years. It would return the government's investment of $400 million in 5 years if the growth rate in the region was just 0.78%. And as improved broadband is known to increase gross domestic product, a growth rate of 1.08% would generate $561 million in new tax revenues over that same 5 years. It would support telecommuting that could in turn lead to a 200 kilogram reduction in per capita CO2 emissions, along with delivering some $400 million in annual cost avoidance for rural telecommuters in the region. And it would support home-based healthcare that would deliver about $170 million in savings in healthcare costs. EORN staff will be coming to a meeting in the very near future. We're having trouble scheduling that, but I think clearly the economic justification for doing a GIG project is there. It would be very good for the economy and the environment, and so I think it's important that we keep those things in mind as we move forward and lobby for funding from other levels of government.
Those reports are excellent information and will really help us all moving forward. Councillor DeVolen, you want to speak to the EORN reports?
Yeah, this is wonderful stuff in terms of the economic impact. I would say these are made some assumptions based on the growth that were pre-COVID. And I think unless you've been living under a rock in rural Ontario, and specifically eastern rural Ontario, the amount of persons here that are here and that are coming are growing way beyond the assumptions made in this economic impact. So I would say to the members of the public and provincial and federal elected folks that the numbers far exceed what these are. And even with these, what I'll call today, very conservative type of assumptions made, that the payback and anything in terms of public policy, apart from cash flow considerations that are 5 years or less, are a no-brainer. And that, both levels of government to encourage them to move forward this soonest, realizing that both in terms of timing and costs, there are all kinds of synergies that if this could happen on the heels of the Cell Gap project at the same time. Like I say, both cost savings and to move timelines significantly ahead if a decision or movement on this is later.
Thank you. Any other comments about the EORN updates? Councillor Royale.
Yeah, I read them, and I think that not disagreeing one bit with Councillor DeVolen's assessment. I found that it had huge amounts of data, much of which was extremely complex, and that at the end of the day, the amount of information might have been simplified a little bit so that the average person could understand it in English. Having said that, I think the intent was there. It was obvious a push for the GIG project against the 5010. I'm just not sure exactly where that would fit in the amount of installation that we would have in Haliburton County. But having said that, there's no question about the fact that the reports were extremely thorough and that the information was there. I just found it a little difficult to read in the sense of making it simple for an average person to go through. But other than that, I support it.
Thank you for that perspective. Any other comments on the EORN reports? Thanks for bringing that up, Mike. Just as a question of process, I have Indigenous communities and minutes from the library board as separate items, or are they all included in one resolution?
So minutes from the The health unit, the library board, and the EORN economic impact studies are in one resolution. And the Indigenous Affairs report is in a separate one.
Okay, thank you. So if I could have a mover and a seconder to accept those first three items. Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Shell, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the September 17th, 2020 approved minutes from the Haliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge District Health Unit Board of Health meeting, and the approved minutes from the June 10th, 2020 regular board meeting and the August 19th special board meeting of the Haliburton County Public Library Board, and the economic impact studies for the GIG project from EORN.
All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, now we'll speak to the Indigenous communities and the changes that are taking place there. If you would speak to that, Mr. Rutter.
Actually, I'll have the Director of Planning, if that's okay. She's the author of the report, so.
Shall I speak? Sorry, I cut out.
Are you okay if Charles E. moves ahead, Gordon?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I just lost my agenda on my computer here.
Great, well, thank you very much.
Charles.
Okay. So in 2018, a negotiated settlement was agreed to between the Government of Canada, the Province of Ontario, and 7 Williams Treaty First Nations. I've included some of the terms of the settlement in this report, as well as the negotiation timeline. And the reason that we have it at this section of the agenda brings forward a point that going forward, there's a number of Indigenous affairs that are ongoing in the province of Ontario. And currently our county procedural bylaw speaks to Algonquin land claim. And it's my recommendation for consideration to County Council that the procedural bylaw be looked at and potentially updated to include, instead of Algonquin land claim, a general category for Indigenous affairs. And that would provide the opportunity for staff to bring forward any reports related to these items in the future. And on note on the Williams Treaty, we as staff will continue to monitor and follow. We have had communications with the provincial ministry responsible and are trying to gain further information specific to the impacts to the County of Haliburton. And so hopefully in the future, I'll bring some of that information forward.
Thank you. That's good information, Charles E. Good report. Are there any comments or questions? If I could have Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, just thanks for bringing this forward. I think it's appropriate that we move away from the old traditional Algonquin land claim and move forward with this. I really look forward to seeing a report on what the unique implications to Haliburton County may be as a result of the Williams Treaty. Thank you.
So a mover and a seconder to adopt this change, Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Moffat. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council accept this report as information and that the County of Haliburton procedural bylaw be updated to remove Algonquin land claim as a standing item and replace it with Indigenous affairs.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you so much, Charles E. Okay, the next items. Do you have anything that you'd like to raise about Good Roads Association, Councillor Burton?
I don't have an update, but we do have a meeting next month in November.
Okay, thank you. Any updates or information you'd like to impart, Councillor DeVolen, about EORN?
I would say that the substance of the report that was already there. I guess the other thing is in the month of November, I think I said previously, but the RFP have come back, of which there are multiples, and the board starting next week will decide how we're moving forth with that regard. So the moment of truth probably in November is upon us, and I look forward to in the months that follow that. Once the decision's made, then there's the nuts and bolts of how you do that. So that will definitely take some time, but this is the beginning of, in my mind, the real process to pick who will be the provider or providers, and construction schedules and contracts and all of that stuff. In my mind, it really becomes real when that's happened. So exciting times.
Yeah, that's the exact words that I would use. It's exciting to see that something's actually going to get on the ground and see things moving, even though it's going to take some time. Okay, just one last item under that section. Anything on poverty reduction, Councillor DeVolen?
We'll be meeting in November. One thing that I'm going to bring to the board, and I was doing it in October, but you know, you have one of those days that electronic gremlins seem to rule the roost, and we had one of those days. And the question that I will float that's relevant to us is our policing and community safety and well-being plans. As I read, you know, as we've been kept well up to date along the course of this from Councillor Moffat, there's an awful lot of overlap between the type of things that our poverty reduction is looked after and what this new framework will do. And my question will be to them, with those ministries that sit at the table, of which there's like 20 some persons involved, what type of notification they've been given, if any at all, in terms of reporting and due diligence. And then the larger question is, if kind of half of the turf that has been within this group really is covered in something else, to not create a silo or have duplications, where do we go from there? We have a bit of time. The coordinator there has done a wonderful job. After the meeting and the challenges that we had, we talked offline on the phone, and with her colleagues in, you know, this part of Ontario and other parts of Ontario, to ask some of those same sort of questions. So just on our behalf, as we move forward to that, is to make sure that A, they're aware of it, and B, that if there isn't chatter within the ministries or the who they answer to, that if they would do that and start that process, so that we don't end up with two silos that don't have any idea what's going on in the other.
Councillor Moffat.
Yeah, I would agree completely with Councillor DeVolen. We don't want to be operating in a vacuum as we develop this legislated plan. We do know from during the pandemic that those groups did work well together. They sort of filled in their own gaps. So let's hope we can migrate that existing working relationship and that working framework into the safety and well-being plan, so that we don't lose momentum. And certainly, you know, I at a meeting a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure, Brent, if you were at the same one as I was, but I had asked, it was to do with Triple HS, and a lot of those players were at the table that day for that meeting. And I mentioned the safety well-being plan and the reps of the various ministries who are obligated to report to the municipalities under these plans, all looked at me, and one fella said, well, I don't report to a municipality, I report to the province. So at that time, it was clearly evident that the ministerial information had not been provided to the staff on the ground, and we can only hope that since then that information has been provided, so that we can you know, keep the momentum and get this thing moving for the benefit of the community. So fingers crossed that it all aligns nicely.
Absolutely. Okay, any other comments or questions about that? The next item then is the meeting calendar. Any additions, deletions, errors, omissions, Councillor DeVolen?
Just a question to the clerk. The meeting minutes for the library board, did I miss that or whatever? Do we need to do that? Or did I just?
They were included in the
original one? In
the report from number 11.
Okay.
It was blocked in with, there were 3 separate items, including
okay. Thank you for the clarification, Warden.
With respect to the calendar, Warden Danielson, I think the one item that was missed on the published calendar is a special meeting that the Director of Planning had proposed and scheduled for Monday, November 23rd for shoreline preservation bylaw review. So that I do apologize, but that was missed on the calendar.
So if you haven't got it marked down, please do. That's an important discussion for us. Councillor Rael?
With regards to that meeting, are we going to be getting full packages, Mike, giving us everything we're going to be discussing at that particular meeting? I know there's the bylaw itself, but we've also been talking about other recommendations that each councillor and other interested parties have been able to submit. I'd like to get that as soon as possible so that I'm as aware as I can be on November the 23rd. So
I'll ask the Director of Planning to address that question, actually.
So it's proposed that the questions that came from the August meeting as well as the October meeting will be created in a chart with those answers. There's a number of questions that have come in from other, I guess, public members as well. So I'm going to include those as a separate section. And I'm also working on the materials so that the purpose of the bylaw is better explained and that there's some visual aids to go along with that. So there'll be a number of pieces of material, and I'm happy to work with the CAO to find a date that would be feasible to get that to you ahead of time.
Any comments or questions while Charles is here? Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I believe that the next item on the agenda is our call volume comparisons. So we'll bring in the, not the director of EMS, the deputy chief. Good morning.
Thank you, Warden, and good morning, CAO Rudder and members of County Council. As the Warden stated, I'm here to provide you with our call volume and 2021 projections. So the data that we've obtained these statistics through is the ambulance dispatch reporting system. And two graphs I'm going to be referring to at the start are based on the following calculation. Our current population is 18,062. Using the people per household of 2.1 as the average, that calculates to 8,443. Due to our wonderful uniqueness, we have 21,113 total dwellings within our county. Of that, 18,000 plus population equals 52. Oh, sorry. Of that, 18,000 plus the population with greater to or equal to 55-year-olds remaining in the county are over 55. So using that calculation, if each of these 21,113 dwellings were occupied and using the average people per household of 2.14, our population total would be 45,181, and 23 plus would be equal to or over 55. So using a 30% calculation of our seasonal, if our seasonal residents remain for the winter, our population will increase from 18,062 to 26,198. So if you look at the graphs showing our predictions for the remaining fall and winter months of 2020, the projections include a 5% annual increase. So you'll see by the graphs, the blue line would be the total call volume for 2018, 2019, 2020 for like total call volume. And then the other one being just our code 3s and code 4 calls. The 30% increase is not included in the months for 2021, as that's when our population usually increases. An interesting statistic from 2020 was that we've had a 26% call volume increase in June and a 30% increase in September. Along with this increase to medical calls, due to the increased population and the age demographics, there's a possibility of more calls due to trauma, with more people partaking in high-risk activities such as snowmobiling and other activities. So what this will show that what was asked previously is to use some of our provincial monies to increase for another vehicle to counteract these increase in call volume. And that's the end of my information for you today.
Questions or thoughts? Councillor DeVolen, then Councillor Roberts, and Councillor Moffat.
Yeah, just definitely in favor of being proactive in this. There's more people be around, and I would say probably shoveling snow is a higher risk than snowmobiling with those of us that are of a certain age, but would gladly support staffing up so that we're not caught in a precarious situation. So thank you.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. We had all kind of known anecdotally that there's more people here on those shoulder seasons in September, and I'm sure when we get the full year for 2020 and we see October, November, December, that's only going to reaffirm what we thought, and now we know, and so we have to act accordingly. I wish that there was a way to get more money from the province, because everything is based on a permanent population, not a dwelling. So that's unfortunate for a lot of ways that we receive our funding, and especially in this case. But yeah, we have to be proactive.
Councillor Moffat.
Thank you. Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't once again put in my placeholder for long-term conversations about expansion of facility, capital investment. We've talked on and off over the years about, as the community grows, needing perhaps another hall, Guildford area, and we've got good coverage, I think, up 35 corridor where Muskoka comes across and down. So let's just keep that ball in the air for future consideration. If the numbers that we're seeing in terms of population and these call volumes stay as they are and possibly increase, that decision might come to our table sooner than we thought it might. So I think it's important that we just keep that ball floating around a little bit.
Thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
I just want to thank EMS staff for bringing that forward. Exactly the kind of information we need to help support your request for the additional funding. Just clarification, the additional funding that was requested, was that for the total 2021 budget year? I was going to pull up that report, but it said till the end of the pandemic, and I wasn't sure what that meant, what the final decision on that was. The 332,000 funding.
I can answer that, I believe. I guess our intention was to take it through to Thanksgiving next year, when we would, normally go back to a 12-hour car in Torrey Hill. So the funding actually pays. There's the normal funding where we would normally staff up through the summer months. That's not included. The 332,000 covers the from November 1st, 2020 to Thanksgiving 2021. We do have money left, and I think we will monitor that. And if we need to bring forward a recommendation asking that 12-hour car, or that be left a 24-hour car beyond Thanksgiving 2021, then we will be keeping money. We'll be monitoring the Safe Restart money to make sure that we have the money to do that. The other thing I have asked is Councillor Kennedy, your past experience, I've certainly asked EMS staff to reach out to you, so that I think you have a long history with the funding formula, and you had mentioned, is there a way we could work this in so that the provincial funding might be maximized. And I think they'll be reaching out to you after hunting season to get some help with that. I think you could be a real assistance if you would be willing.
Well, thank you. And I'd be all in favor of supporting the additional funding right through the calendar year. If that ends up being so it's great to hear that the door will be left open after Thanksgiving next year. It's a quickly moving forward to where Councillor Moffat needs to her particular township to be, is getting another station moving. So lots of exciting things there. Thank you.
And staff agree with that as well.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Roberts.
Well, just to reiterate, like I said, that we're charged for services under a per dwelling, but we only get money for a permanent population. So I think that is also something that county council needs to lobby provincially somehow, maybe not now, but to keep in mind.
Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder to accept the call volume report? Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Moffat. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the October 28th, 2020 Haliburton County Paramedic Service call volume comparison and call volume projections for 2021.
All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the open portion of our meeting. So I would be looking for a mover and a seconder to go into closed. Councillor DeVolen, Councillor Burton.
Moved by Councillor DeVolen, seconded by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council enter into closed session as per section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And in this case, it is actually physicians that, naming physicians that our physician recruiter is hoping to bring to Haliburton County.
All in favor? Carried. So there'll be just a brief break between sessions. Actually, this might be a time. Does anybody want to take a 10-minute break? Yes, okay. Does that work for you, Mr. Rutter?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, we're back live.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is number 15 on bylaws. So if I could have a mover and a seconder on the one bylaw that we have, Councillor Moffat, Councillor Shell. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that bylaw 4016, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the City of Kawartha Lakes for winter maintenance services on the specified section of County Road 503, be considered to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, and the seal of the corporation be affixed.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And are there any notice of motions? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder for the confirming bylaw? Councillor Roberts, Councillor Burton.
Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved that bylaw 4017 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the October 28th, 2020 meeting of Haliburton County Council be considered read a first, second, third time, finally passed, and the seal of the corporation be affixed.
All in favor? Thank you, that's carried. And finally, thanks to you all. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Burton, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Burton. Be it resolved, the October 28th, 2020 meeting of Haliburton County Council be adjourned.
All in favor? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
You guys stay safe.